I'm not alone, my friends. There he is at the news desk, Mr. Grant Lampton.
To the lump, to lump, to lump.
Is that what I should call you? Because you sometimes you use your other name professionally.
My Christian name, yes.
Yes, Mike Sudderth. Am I saying it correctly, Sudderth?
Yeah, absolutely, Sudderth, yes.
I didn't know if it was like Sudderth or something.
In France, it's Sudderth.
What should I call you? Should I call you Grant? Should I call you Mike?
Let's roll with that. That's how Rob Acevedo has rolled me out here. So.
Right, yes. Yeah, you've been on, how many times have you been on Rob's show?
More than I can count, luckily. He's been very kind over, 2 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be weird being here at this time of day.
It is. I'm normally rolling out of bed.
Yeah, Grant's been on, Rob Acevedo, of course, does a great show called Granted State of Mind. I believe I had met you then originally, but of course, you also perform Friday nights at the Hop Knot.
Yeah, I think let's call it that. A residency. I'm there every Friday night from 7-ish to 9-ish, and sometimes a little later. How did
you meet Kenny and Trudy? How did you get involved playing over there?
I am friends with if we can name names.
Yes.
Get nervous when I do this. A young lady named Stephanie Murphy, who used to be a bartender over there.
Oh, okay.
She said, hey, I'm at a little craft beer place that serves pretzels, and it was somewhat in their beginning, I believe. And she said, I think it might be a good place. Why don't I put in a word for you? I had a open mic I was running at the Wild Rover here over on, please pronounce the name of the street for me.
Is it Kosciuszko?
I have no bloody idea.
It's something like that. I'm not sure I'm saying it right either.
I've been going there for 20 plus years and I don't know how to say it. But she was a bartender there as well. And when she moved over to the Hop Knot, she said, look, this fella Kenny and his family are very sweet and I think it might be a good fit.
Yeah.
So I owe that gig to Stephanie Murphy, if you're listening.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I do know a Stephanie Murphy. I wonder if it's the same one. But then again, there's probably a million Stephanie Murphys in the world. So who knows?
You want to go down this road?
But there's probably not many Grant Lamptons.
No, the only other Grant Lampton I know was I think you and I spoke about this on the air, is Alec Baldwin on the SNL skit.
Yes.
Christmas.
Right.
Which is where I took it from.
Now, there is another Matt Connarton right here in New Hampshire, in fact, but he's my uncle, so that almost doesn't even count, really.
Sorry, Uncle Matt.
There aren't many Connartons. Now, when you play at the Hop Knot, do you do? Is it covers? Is it originals? Is it a mix? Or
it is about 95% to 90% covers.
Yeah.
That I adjust based on the crowd. I sprinkle in some originals, but I just don't do it as much as I have been or should or whatever. I look at it more as I'm background music there. People are there often to watch the Nickelodeon, which is on several other TVs that I get off on when I'm watching Hey Arnold playing Grateful Dead songs. It's kind of a cool dynamic.
Yeah.
But to answer the question, certainly mostly covers. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very good. Stefan in the chat says, Maura and I saw Grant at the Hop Knot in the past and have seen him at a few Rob Acevedo events. Great talent. Oh,
thank you very much.
Very good. Very good.
I look forward to seeing you all again.
You do play other places, right?
Yeah. I frequent outside of what's now called the 603 Bar and Grill, the old Panucci's, here on the corner of Elm and Lowell.
Yeah.
And, excuse me, one of the folks who's been in this studio several times, Miss Faith Ann from the Faith Ann Band. I will be playing at a place that she works called Friends Pub on Silver Street, I believe it's called.
Oh, okay.
Coming up here towards the end of the month. If you look on my Facebook page, I think I threw up my May dates. And
very good.
That'll be a new one for me. But it, for the most part, it's been Panucci's, Hop Knot, The Rover, places like that.
Is that a new venue, the Friends Pub? I'm not familiar with it.
I don't know. I only went there one time to meet Faith, and she said, hey, I'm trying to get some music going here. And we know each other through here and some other musical ventures. And she said, hey, if you can come throw me a show, I'll see if I can convince my boss to... and I'm like, you sure I'm the guy to do this? I'm honored, but you sure you want to get my hippie butt in here to try to draw people? Let's do it. I'll give it a shot.
There you go. Am I correct? Do I have this correct? You used to be very active, and then you took a break from playing music, and then you became very active again?
Yeah, it took kind of a conscious break. The story I tell is I was driving home from Boston for the most part, sober on a Sunday morning at 2 a.m. and, with $30 in my pocket, and very entertaining to play, as it always is. But, excuse me, not so, I don't want to be on 93 at 2 a.m. coming home and having to go to work Monday morning. And I didn't get schooled musically. I always, for the most part, had a job. And so I took a break and had kids and was married and had an opportunity through I think I said on your call-in show that somebody asked me to play a benefit, and it was a solo acoustic, and the pandemic hit, and the only folks who really were having any activity were solo acoustic musicians and stuff like that. And it just was like a harmonic convergence, and I was able to get active with very little effort. And that's when I met Rob and just kind of started getting some traction and inertia with it. I couldn't probably make it happen again. But yeah, I used to play in bands as a kid, and life grows up, and I didn't made the conscious decision not to. I'm not going to bust my butt doing this stuff. And now I'm able to have the opportunity to bust my butt, and I really don't, for the most part, travel anywhere outside of the 603 area.
Yeah. Christian Lacoste is in the Facebook live chat, and he says, having a full-time job and playing gigs is a tough thing to do. I'm slowly learning that. Yeah, and even, more difficult when you're, if you're starting a family or, or if you have I know a lot of people who take breaks because, maybe they have a family, they have established, I know people, I'm sure you do too, who are out there playing shows, and they have 3-4 kids and a full-time job, and they're and it's tough. It becomes it can become a grind. I don't have any children myself. I've successfully avoided that. But I mean,
I hate to use the word hobby, but I don't ride a Harley, and I don't fish, and I don't snowmobile, I don't ski for the most part anymore. So this is kind of it's something fun I do, I look forward to, I enjoy it when I do it, and it takes a little effort and hurts sometimes, but it's worth it because it's what I like to do.
Now, before you mentioned playing in bands, were you only playing in bands, or were you also performing as a solo artist before?
Very rarely as a solo artist, and certainly just by accident. I was always in bands. Certainly when I started out so self-conscious, and I was a toe watcher, they call it in the business. I'd sit up there and look at my toes and the fretboard, and but I always played with bands, and varying degrees of success. No charting albums, obviously. Played in a couple of cool cover bands and met a lot of very nice people that I'm friends with to this day, and it was extremely exciting, and to some levels much easier to play in an ensemble. Because you're able to lay back and kind of discover your strengths and push forward and backwards. When it's just myself and the guitar up there, it takes some attention. And I waited all my life to get a free tab to drink at a bar, and I finally have one, and I really can't make use of it.
That's great. Has it been... you mentioned you would occasionally perform before as a solo artist, but do you find it easier to do that now that you're focused on that, as opposed to just doing it occasionally while mostly playing in bands?
I mean, it's my MO now to play by myself, and we can talk about this later, but I had a fellow named Joe Carpenito come down and sit in with me last week at the Hop Knot, which was really a dream of mine for many, many years. I used to go see him before I really even knew what I was doing on the guitar. So he came in and sat with me, and it took a real mental effort to listen to somebody else. That's a skill, to listen to another musician. And so it took a little bit of effort. When I play by myself, if I'm a half step slower than normal, it doesn't matter. It's just me. If I change the key in something, it doesn't matter. And for the most part, if I forget a verse or switch some words around, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
When you're in an ensemble situation, everybody has to be, for the most part, on the same page.
That's true. I've always been so. Joe Carpenito, you had not played with him before?
I never have in my life. Back in the late 90s, I believe, is when I used to go see him in Boston. And he was with an outfit called the Einstein Experience, and my mind was blown, and I was very much. I'd always wanted to play the guitar and had a little bit on the end of my bed at that point, but he and his band really pushed me to, to stick with it as, again, just a hobby as an interest. And but that was kind of what drove the whole thing. They and obviously the Grateful Dead, which most people know about me.
I'm always fascinated by the ability, and like you said, it took a little bit of effort, the ability of musicians who've never played before to be able to do that at a live show. Because I've been in a bunch of bands. I play bass, and I've been in a lot of rock and metal, and there was even a hip hop group that I was sort of loosely affiliated with. But to be able to do that. To meet up with somebody at a show and to be able to just play together without ever having rehearsed, for me, like, I don't think I have the skill set for that myself. So I've always been kind of in awe of anyone who can do that and pull that off. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, and this guy and I don't know how to put it into words, really, had something in common because I had always followed his music, and even from afar, without having seen him for 25, 30 years or whatever, followed his music and listened to his music and have seen him play so long ago that it wasn't that big of a leap. You know what I mean? It was like if you're a musician and I'm a musician, if you and I were to sit up in front of a crowd, might get a little bumpy because we have to feel each other out. For the most part, I sent him a set list. These songs are in these keys.
Yeah.
And we covered those and were able to even kind of improvise some things.
Yeah.
The old line from Back to the Future when Michael J. Fox said, "Hey, Johnny, be good and see, follow me for the changes." It's kind of what it is.
Yeah. It can be done. Yeah. So you're in kind of a unique position because, and we've talked about this a little bit before too. The pandemic, it was kind of a convergence in your case, like you were talking about, because it presented you with an opportunity to really reignite, your passion. You called it a hobby, but obviously it seems like it's more than a hobby from my perspective because
it's a passion. I like that better.
Yeah, and you're doing a lot with it, and you're playing a lot of shows. But it seems like it really did work out well for you.
It did, and it was completely unplanned. Again, it was serendipity, I guess, is the best description for it. That when things were up and running and there's bands playing in every bar every night, probably somebody doesn't want to hear from a middle-aged white guy and an acoustic guitar. maybe, but I didn't. It happened the way it happened, and yes, probably a pretty good guess that it may not have happened without this gap in sequence. The only performers were either DJs, trivia, or solo musicians.
Yeah. And now, I mean, are you worried about it changing again now that things are opening up, or do you feel like you're now in the scene pretty well established? You've got the Friday nights at the Hop Knot, for example. I mean, are you worried about things changing again, or do you feel
I'm not worried about it. I'm old enough and have had enough experience that I'm not too competitive about stuff anymore. And Rob Acevedo and I have talked about this. Manchester in particular is, if you know a musician, you go and talk to them. You don't avoid them and be like, well, I do something different than he or she does.
Yeah.
It's more of like, hey, do you want to come play with me? And Rob knows that that's a unique, cool thing. And I have lived that and experienced that here recently. And so I'm not worried about, Muggsy getting back together and taking my gig at the Hop Knot. It's a different venue, you know what I mean? And, when the Dark Star Orchestra comes back and blows through town, they're not going to steal my gig at the Capitol Theater. So.
Right. It sounds so cliche to say it, but it really is true. There is room for everybody.
There is. And I'm not the best at what I do. I like to say I'm the only one who does what I do.
There you go.
Yeah. And that's true of all kind of platforms like yours and art and everything is, I don't have to be Steve Vai or Jerry Garcia or any of that. I do what I do, and I don't think anybody would bother to replicate me like I wouldn't bother to replicate somebody else. It's everybody to their own.
You mentioned Boston earlier. So when you were very active the first time around and playing in these bands, were you playing in Boston a lot?
Yeah, I had a good friend down in the Somerville, Medford area. I was in a Neil Young-ish type cover thing.
Huh.
And I did some stuff in southern New Hampshire that we would get down to, the beach was a big scene. Then the Salisbury, we'd go out and play at the beach. But Yeah, some places in Boston that was very accessible. Up here to some extent, the Uptown Theater. If you remember the name Josh Logan, he and I
of course, yeah.
would tool around at the Uptown Theater. And,
okay.
But yeah, kind of all over, but certainly Boston, and that's where I met this guy Joe, and they were out in the Allston area. But they always had clubs. They had Harper's Ferry and Molly's and TT the Bears and all of this.
Oh yeah,
it was constantly chugging music, and it was a cool thing to watch when it happened.
Is it different in your recollection? Because we were talking about how there's room for everyone here and whatnot, and you've taken kind of a non-competitive approach to it. But could you do that in Boston, or is it not possible there? Because I feel like in the Boston scene, and obviously there's a lot of bleed over, but because we're not far from Boston. But I feel like in the heart of the Boston music scene, it would be, I think, much more difficult. I don't want to say it's more cutthroat, but
more competitive. I think.
Yeah.
For better or worse, I think it's more competitive, and things are very segmented. Like there's somewhat here, but I wouldn't go into TT the Bears as a solo performer 20 years ago. I don't know. I wasn't in that position at the time, but I don't think it is, and that's what makes Manchester pretty cool, pretty stank.
Ooh,
how's that?
Wow. Well, did you say stank or stink?
Oh, stink, to be clear.
Yeah, it doesn't quite feel natural, does it? I think that's why Peter's having such a hard time getting people to say it.
Yeah, I was trying to help you out, Pete.
No. That was good effort. He's probably listening. Yeah, I do feel like, and not only Manchester, but the Seacoast area has a lot of great talent there. Do you ever play there out that way? Because it seems like you would do well
I
there.
can't remember that I have. One of the places I used to love to go see bands and occasionally do is the Stone Church in Newmarket. That's a real cool scene. I used to follow around what's now called Truffle, Dave Gerard and Savoy Truffle.
Oh, yes.
They were big Seacoast inspiration to me when I was a younger man. But no, for the most part, I've not hit the beaches and done any of that. I'm blessed to be able to work here, and I put my stuff in my car, and I'm home 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And I'm getting a lot of mileage. It sounds silly, but I get a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah. Are you going to be are you going to be playing a lot this summer? Do you have a lot of shows lined up? I mean, obviously, like I said, you've got Fridays at the Hop Knot, but are you going to be busy?
I'm going to make an effort to kind of expand it a little bit, but again, I don't want to be driving home at 2 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah,
with having had half a glass of beer and saying hello to the state police on 101. Like that doesn't bring me any pleasure. So
no,
I've got an opportunity to run down to Atlanta, Georgia here. That things are still kind of a little up in the air, but that's the 21st of May, Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, no kidding!
I'll be down in College Park, Georgia, for a very again, being so far away and not having talked to the people, I'm a little, but you got to throw yourself out there. I got to take the chance to go down.
For what? For like a festival or something, or what?
Yeah, it's a promotion for a hip hop artist, and they were looking for people, and so I took the chance. And
oh wow,
yeah. So it's not going to be anything that'll reverberate back here to the Northeast, I don't believe, and it's certainly not Dr. Dre or Ice Cube or anything. But I'm going to take a chance to run down there and do that, and it's more of a one-off.
Yeah.
Now that the pandemic has settled down and we don't have to wear Halloween costumes to go into places, I'm going to get back to work, and what that will be a different dynamic. It'll be nights and weekends, pretty much exclusively. Right now, on a Thursday afternoon, folks can call me, hey, can you come play on the patio with an hour's notice? I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. I'll take your money and I'll play. So
yeah. So you're going to be, do you want to say what you do, or?
For work, I'm in HR. I'm in recruiting and HR and things like that. When I do my 40 hours a week and, put a collared shirt on and comb my hair and all that, that's normally what I do. But I've done plenty of other things in between, and I'm very lucky to have the, I guess, financial latitude to, I don't want to drive Uber or anything like that, but, something along those lines, I'm very lucky to perhaps have the opportunity to try to mesh them both. So it's a real work in progress, and I don't want to, jinx it by talking about it too much.
Right. No, I understand that. Yeah. Hello to Melanie La Liberté in the Facebook live chat. She says, she says, weird. I don't remember reading that Halloween costumes protected the vulnerable from dying. Weird. Oh.
I'm sorry for the verbiage and calling them Halloween costumes. If we want to talk about this for a second, and I don't like to address it too much, I'm glad to see the mask thing is relaxed. Mm-hmm. I do it as a courtesy almost to, when I go to the state liquor store to buy a bottle of wine, they ask me to put a mask on, I put a mask on.
Yeah.
I walked into Rite Aid the other day and all the signs were done off the doors, so I didn't put one on.
Yeah.
But it's personal stuff, and you get leers and looks and all of this, and it's real interesting, and I think we're all going to really learn, and you hate to say rewire, but I do it I know the folks at the Hop Knot, the staff always wears a mask. Always.
They're very
When I load
committed.
my equipment in there, I wear a mask.
Yeah.
When I get up to playing, I don't wear a mask.
Well, yeah, that would be very difficult.
Yeah,
Make the song sound a little different, I guess.
Yeah, I'd look like Slipknot, right?
Put a little different spin, singing through a mask, and be like, oh, Grant sounds a little muffled or something.
Yeah.
Did they have
but keeping people safe. But it's interesting how things are changing very fast here, and I believe it's all going to be for the better.
Yeah.
God forbid, I know people have lost people, and it's very sensitive and, again, very personal.
Yeah.
I was talking with a neighbor the other night, and I don't like to really chew the fat with people about sex, religion, and taste of music.
Really?
Well, because it's easy to offend somebody, right? Somebody could say, like, how could you not love Slipknot? I'm like, I just don't fancy Slipknot. I don't listen to it in my car, and I'll listen to it at a party if somebody puts it on, but I just don't. It's not my cup of tea.
Right.
Oh, my gosh. How could you think that way? And so, and the God you pray to, if you do pray to a God or not at all, that's not my business. And what you do in your bedroom is your business. And this mask thing, I know, is very different, and actually in the larger sense, but it's gotten to where here now it's a choice rather than a mandate. And, I treat it as a courtesy. Like, I will listen to Slipknot because it's your house. So, so if it's your establishment and you want me to wear a mask, I have one in my back pocket at all times.
Oh, Melanie said, thank you for your response. Totally my own personal trigger point. But she appreciates your addressing that.
Thank you for saying so. I appreciate that, Melanie.
I've even had a little bit of a struggle myself in that. See, I now feel, I'm fully vaccinated, and so is Jenny. But for me, it's like I almost feel weird even walking, like when I park my car and then walking into the station. Yeah. So I'm not wearing it, and there's really no reason to wear it outside anyway. But I had to it was difficult for me at first not to wear it, because it's like I have this self-conscious thing about, I've been screaming about this for the past year on the radio show. I don't want someone to see me not wearing it and think I'm a hypocrite, even though I know that, the CDC says if you're outside, there's no reason to anyway. And if you're fully vaxxed, there's really no reason to wear it at all at this point. It's like, but I do feel, I had to kind of force myself to, I have it with me. It's in my pocket. But I had to kind of force myself to stop wearing it. You know what I mean? It was like almost like a self-consciousness for me. But
it's been very weird where, again, I believe it's gotten to a point now it's a personal choice rather than a mandate. Yeah. But still people are going to, look at my Grateful Dead tie-dye when I walk down the street and they're like, he has long hair, he's a hippie. He's on drugs. And actually, I'm not on drugs, and I cut my hair. So.
The Slipknot thing, though, were you kidding, or did that really happen? Did you actually have
It's just a generalization. I'm not. I didn't grow up a metalhead. I was. I was a Bob Marley, Grateful Dead, jazz fusion, But we all thought we were cooler than the Black Sabbath, Slipknot, Iron Maiden. And an interesting segue is, I missed out on a lot of great music when I was younger. Yeah. And it took me to become an adult to have a buddy of mine say, you don't like Iron Maiden? I'm like, well, tell you the truth, I've never really paid attention to it. Yeah. And in Iron Maiden sense, he's like, watch this video. And it was a bunch of old dudes playing old Fender guitars, and I'm like, these guys are incredible. But for the time when they were, the 80s and 90s, I missed it, dude.
Yeah.
I also missed like the whole 80s Duran Duran, Billy Idol kind of. I saw it on TV, but I was like, not my cup of tea. And now, like when I listen to it, I'm like, I get off on it, and it makes me laugh that, I was too. I thought I was too relaxed to like it. I was basically too uptight to like it.
Okay.
I didn't think the people I wanted to be associated with liked Billy Idol and Duran Duran and
right
all the stuff. So it's great to mature, and it's all that catalog is still available to me. So I ran out to see Duran Duran a year or two ago down in Mohegan Sun, I think it was.
Okay,
and they were fabulous. Fabulous, man.
Absolutely.
And I used to mock the kids who listen to it.
That's funny.
Out of ignorance.
I kind of know what you mean. Like I come at it from a little bit of a different angle, because some of the stuff that you didn't like growing up, I did like growing up, and much of what you were listening to growing up, I didn't like growing up myself. But I understand that whole thing of, I find that the older I get, the more I look back at music that I didn't necessarily like or appreciate. Just a random example. This was maybe 5 years ago. For whatever reason, I just happened to hear. You remember the song? I think it's called "I Ran" or "I Run" by Flock of Seagulls.
I remember the hairdo. That's for sure.
Yes. And I never liked that song growing up, and it was a huge hit in the 80s. Couldn't get away from it. And I just, for whatever random reason, I just happened to be somewhere, maybe in a department store or something. I don't even remember where I was, and I heard the song, and I was like, oh. You know what? This is actually a great song. Like a light bulb just kind of went off, and I was like,
30 years later.
Yeah, it's like,
40 years later.
I get it. I get why people like this. Yeah, I kind of like it. It'll just kind of happen that way, where I'll just have an epiphany about a song or a band, and I just find as I get older, I appreciate more and more of all, because I've always been someone who likes a lot of different kinds of music. I love metal, I love hip hop, I love hair bands and. Some jam bands, although some of it I'm not, like, I was never into the Grateful Dead, but some of it I really like. But as I get older, I just appreciate more and more music just in general.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I was watching Howard Jones last night, and when Howard Jones was all the rage, I didn't pay any attention, kind of other than the melodies in my head. As as a musician, stuff turns me on a little differently than other folks sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm like, Howard Jones is really a talented, cool guy, and went to the point, looked on his website, and I'm like, he's coming to Tupelo, I think, and I think I'm going to go see him.
Yeah. No, that one I can totally relate, because I was never really into him growing up, but I heard. That song, "Things Can Only Get Better." That
was the one I was digging on.
Yeah, I heard that recently. I was like, this is actually a great song, and appropriate for our times in some ways.
Amen. Great words, though, yeah.
Christian Lacoste in the chat room says, it's just weird. Some bars don't require masks. There's been places I've walked into and forgot my mask and felt so embarrassed. Yeah. I think bars, though, see, I just kind of assumed that, there's not a lot of, once you get in the door, even at the height of this, you're drinking, you're talking to people, it's, I just kind of assumed. That's why, aside from the Hop Knot, I have avoided that kind of thing. Although Sunday night, and again, like I said, Jenny and I are fully vaxxed. We went to the 603 Bar and Grill. I have to force myself to call it that. I'm so used to calling it Panucci's. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people. We went to see Christian DJ, and it was weird. I was posting on Facebook, wow, we're in an actual place around actual people, watching this. But the
bars seem to be the first place that have kind of like instantly not required it. But certainly it's in the very recent past here that, even Panucci's went through a spell where it was like, hey, if you're not sat down, you have to wear a mask. Like if you get up to go play Keno or use the men's room, like you have to put a mask on, and we're going to enforce it to the next day it was gone, or after 9:30 p.m., which I'm not normally out at, but seemed to disappear. which didn't really help the whole, just made it ambiguous. Like, when am I supposed to, when am I not? And I almost appreciated the signs at, Walmart and the state liquor store or what have you that, hey, stop, it would literally say stop on it. We want you to wear a mask. Okay.
Right.
I tell it to people, I looked at it as, okay, shirt and shoes required, or, you must wear a collared shirt,
Exactly.
And I don't mean to be light on that because COVID and all the infection thing is completely different. But in my own mind, I'm like, hey, if you want me to do this, to be a patron of yours,
right,
I'm happy to do that. And what I believe stays at home, and I'm coming to your place of business, I'll do what you all need me to do.
Well, no, that's actually a great point because, you've got the people, and I'm sure you've seen or on YouTube and there was an incident with, did you see this with Ricky Schroeder? Remember Ricky Schroeder from Silver Spoons?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Child star.
How did he turn out?
Well, he not great because he was at Costco in California throwing a temper tantrum.
Not Beverly Hills either, right?
Probably not, yeah. Well, he had a little bit of another burst of fame, I think about 20 years ago. He was on NYPD Blue.
Uh-huh.
He replaced... I think he replaced the guy who replaced Jimmy Smits, who replaced David Caruso. So the show had already long ago jumped the shark.
Yes.
When Ricky Schroeder was on it for a season or two at the end. But yeah, he's having a meltdown. This poor guy at Costco. These people don't get paid enough to deal with this nonsense.
Right.
And Ricky Schroeder's yelling at the guy and
do you know who I am?
He never
Ricky Schroeder.
He never actually said that, but he might as well. He clearly expected the guy recognized him, and the guy's like, "Well, yeah, we still require the mask," and he was being very patient with him, and Schroeder is just like, "Well, I'm gonna cancel my membership and get my money back," and just being, it's so.
That's interesting. So it was in the other direction. I too often see that it's the direction where people are demanding and freaking out that people wear a mask. And so it's probably healthy to hear it in the other direction that, it's the guy saying, I don't want to, because it works in both directions. Again, it makes sense in my brain to like music, like how can you not love Slipknot, because at that level, like the conversation's kind of over if you're not going to be able to explain away to some things to some people.
Right. But I like what you said about, it's just like, no shirt, no shoes, no service. If you're a patron at somebody's business, then,
right.
you follow the rules, what's the big deal? Because, you got the people like Ricky Schroeder and others who, they look at it like, well, it's my freedom and my liberty. I have a right to be in your private business it's like, well, you don't, you're not arguing with anybody whether or not you have a right to walk in with no shoes on. So why make this a fight,
Right. To that level, it's the same thing. And again, it's not when you're talking about a virus that can put you in the hospital and or kill you. So it's not the same thing. But at a street level, it kind of is. And, if you want to go buy a bottle of wine at the liquor store, put the mask on. If you don't, stay home and make bathtub gin, like that's your option. So
right.
What are you going to do? I'm going to put the mask on and go get my bottle of wine. So.
Well, what's wrong with the bathtub gin? Is that a bad idea?
I don't know. I think that I've heard it makes you go blind. Right?
Oh, that's probably a bad idea. But yeah,
I don't make anything like that at home.
I've never tried it. That's more of a Southern thing, anyway, isn't it? The bathtub gin,
yeah.
the moonshine.
My folks are from the South. Perhaps that's where that idea comes from.
Are they? Where are you? Are you from?
I was an Army brat.
Okay.
But my mama was from Texas and my dad was from Central Florida.
It's funny because it didn't occur to me until you said that just now, but you don't sound like you're from here.
No, I was from nowhere until I landed up here for school many years ago.
So you moved around a lot as a kid?
Yeah, like every 18 months, we moved around.
Was that hard?
Parts of it were hard, and it has to be noted that part of it is very beneficial now. I can walk into a room full of people I don't know, and I'm not weirded out by shaking hands and saying, hello, my name is... whatever I choose to call myself that evening. Because
you're used to having to meet new people?
Yeah, because I used to have to walk into a lunchroom every 18 months and sit down, and, that was hard, and it was weird, and I didn't like it, and I didn't like losing my friends as a kid,
That must have been really tough,
It was a bummer, and this is all before Facebook and, FaceTiming and all this jazz. Like, once you were gone, other than a letter, you were gone, and I didn't like it, but I have to owe it to that somebody will say, hey, go talk to Kenny at the Hop Knot, and not there to introduce me. I'll walk in and say, hey, my name's Mike. And, 9.5 times out of 10, it's just normal. And it's like getting up in front of people and giving a speech or singing. That stuff doesn't bother me because I kind of got a little practice at it, but I didn't like the process for sure.
Interesting. As you got older, did that get easier, or was it always kind of a challenge, but also beneficial?
I came up here for like boarding school and college.
Okay.
My dad had retired from the Army and went to work for Raytheon down in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So that's how I landed here. And once I landed here and finally made it through school and college and whatnot, I stayed here. I got married and had kids and whatnot. So here I still am. But, even in college, like I didn't like the public speaking classes and stuff like that. It was weird. But I think what got me through it was, hey, if you can walk into a lunchroom with a bunch of bullies and, people calling me Kentucky Fried because I talk different, they did,
Did they really?
And that hurts, man. When you're a young kid, it's a bummer. And But, I know people who, to this day, as professionals making all the money in the world, I don't like the social thing. And, I'd rather stay in my cube and on my phone and my laptop. And so I think I acquired the skill whether I wanted it or not.
Yeah. So we're here with Grant Lampton, also known as Mike Sutterth, who performs every Friday night at the Hop Knot from, it's 7 to 9, right?
7 to 9, yeah.
Okay.
He's pretty cool and lets me be loose about 30 minutes either direction. So,
now are you performing outside or inside, or does it depend on the weather? Or?
Depends on the weather.
Okay.
Probably pretty soon here we'll get out over to the patio outside in the Brady Sullivan Plaza.
That'll be nice. They did a nice job too setting that up. Yeah,
it's cool.
Tom Blanchard says you have a smooth-sounding voice. Oh, very nice.
Is that you or me?
I think he meant you.
Oh, thank you very much. I was once told I have a weatherman's voice because I don't have a New England accent. I don't really have much of a Southern accent. And I'm like, so what are you trying to say? It's like the weatherman. The weatherman never sounds like he's from Dorchester or from the South, That's true. Yes. So I'll take that as a compliment. I appreciate that. A man without a country.
Yes. How long have you? So you've lived here for quite a while, though, right? In New Hampshire.
Oh yeah, since like the 80s.
Oh, okay.
I got shipped off to a place called the New Hampton School, way up near Plymouth, New Hampshire, and got my undergrad over here. Was in New Hampshire College. It's now SNHU.
Yeah,
and really haven't moved far out of like 10-mile radius ever since. I'm lucky enough to travel a lot when allowed, but Manchester's been my home really longer than I've been anywhere else.
Yeah.
But I I consider myself from Manchester. But again, my parents being from the South and having lived out west and all over, it's kind of weird. It's really weird to. When I travel, hey, where are you from? I'm like, when I travel overseas, I'm from Boston. Because they don't know Manchester, New Hampshire.
Right.
I'm from Boston, around Boston,
Yeah, it makes sense. And over there at the news desk is Mr. Grant Lampton, and hello. And you're going to play. Do you want to do a couple, or you up for doing a couple? Or
yeah, I can do a couple.
All right.
You tell me. May have to give me a breather for 2 seconds in between. But.
Sure, yeah. You went to the trouble of tuning up. I'd hate for you to just do one,
Sure. I'm happy to do that. It's more thinking what comes into my mind. Normally I have two pieces of paper with two full sets.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah.
I've had to play 4 hours of music before, and that's not something you do off the top of your head.
No doubt.
So it's got to be written down in front of me. So this I'm kind of doing off the top of my head.
Sure.
As I just ran to use the facilities, I'm like, okay, let's come up with one or two, and I've got two ready to pull. So,
well, take it away whenever you're ready.
Dynamite. Thank you.
Valerie, baby, what's the matter? downtown with the pocket knife. Cut your other man, but I spared his life. Valerie, won't you be good to me? Hey, Valerie, baby, what's the matter with you? Come on, baby, and tell me true. Valerie, I shot my dog 'cause he growled at you. Valerie, won't you be good to me? Valerie, what's the matter with me? I never ever done you no wrong. I sing the blues nearly all night long. Valerie, what's the matter with me? I'd do anything that you say. I can't understand why you tell me to please go away. I ain't afraid of the cold, cruel world outside. No chicken little running from the falling sky. Hey, baby, what's your complaint? I tried to be everything I ain't. Valerie, won't you be good to me? Yeah, Valerie, won't you be good to me? Yeah, Valerie, won't you be good to me?
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Is that one of yours, or is that? I don't know the song.
The song is off of one of Jerry Garcia's solo albums called "Run for the Roses," and I don't believe he wrote it. It's I think it's an old blues tune.
Oh, no kidding.
I never dug into it. I just liked the song, and
Yeah.
the Valerie thing rolls off the tongue. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. No, you got a great voice, man.
Thank you very much.
I remember when I found that clip from Granite State of Mind of you doing Anything But Me. Is that the name of the song? The Fish song?
Anything But Me. Yeah, up in Concord.
Yeah. And I played it on this show, and I remember too. Everybody in the chat room was like, "Wow, that's really good."
Yeah, thank you very much. That didn't come overnight. That's I never was the singer in a band or anything like that. It wasn't really until I struck out on my own that I kind of hit my stride with that. And it's a very narrow window, especially at my age, that I can't. I used to be a harmony singer, a backup kind of person in a band because I could sing high.
Yeah,
and that's kind of disappeared. So I have to kind of pay attention to my zone and stay within that. But when I find it, and it's not always on purpose, I try to stick with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, did you want to do one more? You got one more in mind, or?
Yeah, like I said, as I ran down the hall here, I thought of another one. I
Cool.
tried to think of another one, and this is a Ween song.
Okay.
Off of the same album that Mr. Peter White many years ago. Gosh, I think Clint was president. It was so long ago.
Yeah.
But off of that same CD that Peter passed me at a yard party with things flying overhead and whatnot, and went home. And like I say, that album Quebec just it clicked with me, and we going to see them live. And knock on wood, we'll get the opportunity to here again.
Yeah.
Live there, something, and you can't put them into a hole. Like I said, they'll play you a love song, they'll play you a punk tune, they'll play ballad rock. It's fascinating band if y'all haven't looked into them.
Very eclectic.
So this is a song off of that, and it's more in certainly their love song kind of genre of stuff. That my very young daughter at the time heard it, and she used to sing it in the back of the car when I listened to it. So it means a lot to me.
Oh, wow.
Did we miss the room? I'd lie in your arms if I could now. Such a calm pain repeats itself again and again now. Flowers blow in springtime and leaves fall from the trees. I've been gone for so long, you just threw away the key. I understand it, but I don't want it. I know it so well. I dreamed you and you laughed when I fell now. This isn't how it should be. I let you drift so far from me now. Please hold on to the memories before we really crash and burn. We got ourselves surrounded and we've forgotten how to love. I understand it, but I don't want it.
Very nice. Very nice. That is Grant Lampton with us here in the studio. And, as I was mentioning earlier, Grant, of course, plays Friday nights at the Hop Knot, our wonderful sponsor in the Brady Sullivan, right across the street at 1000 Elm Street. I'll tell you, it's pretty cool. I can actually look over across the street and see our sponsor. That's probably unusual in radio.
I will wander over here and wave to Robbie. Of course, you can't see out the window very well.
Right.
I'll always wave to him.
Yeah. Well, I always say, I when, of course, Monday and Tuesday is their weekend, but when they're open, I'll wave, but I know they don't see it because we're on a slight delay. So, But, what can you do? But, so Grant is, like I said, he's at the Hop Knot Friday nights. And what else do you have, you've got, in the next few weeks, you got other, you mentioned the date with, at Friends?
Yeah, my Friends Pub, I think it's called.
My
the Two
Friends.
Friends Pub or something to that effect.
Yeah.
It's up near Silver Street. But Miss Faith Ann from the Faith Ann Band was nice enough to ask me to come play there. And I pretty much do on-call with the staff at 603 again. Just doesn't pop out of the mouth very well.
I know.
If I know, like, say this coming Thursday, if I know it's going to be gorgeous out, or it's a pretty good bet, I'll give them a buzz, and they'll normally get me out there. I do try to stay leery of playing 2 nights in a row. At my age, it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, it's not David Lee Roth or anything, but to stay up late and to sing for these guys over at 603, I'll play 4 hours, 3 hours at a time.
Oh, no kidding.
Kenny's was a breeze. 2 hours is easy, but 4 hours and then having to do it the next day,
is it difficult on the vocal cords?
Yeah. And again, I just have to pay attention to where I am range-wise with the song anyway.
Yeah.
And what happens is if I have too much fun, and normally if I'm playing outside on a patio, I'm having a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just as far as bouncing around and singing as loud as I can and having a good old time, to go into an intimate setting like the Hop Knot the next night, I can just, to my ear, not sound quite as good.
Okay. Yeah, no, it makes sense. We're talking with Grant Lampton, also known as Mike Sudderth, and by the way, so do you approach it any differently? These we talked about it on the show when you called recently. When you perform under your other name, do you approach that any differently, or is that purely just a situational thing where it's more convenient to be? It's
situational. Just as far as the name, I play the same music.
Yeah.
As I dream in the bathtub at night, if I ever were to put a band together, I would call it the Grant Lampton Band.
Yeah.
Because that kind of sounds nice. But that remains to be seen. But no, when I play it, it really started with a bar owner saying, "Why are you using this silly name, Mike?" And he kind of got cross at me, and I said, "Hey, look, if you're paying me to do this, you can call me Larry if you want to."
Yeah, exactly.
But it seemed like it ticked him off, and I'm like, okay, I'll use.
For real,
my name.
it actually annoyed him.
Yeah, but it's one of these. Again, if I'm getting paid to do this, you call me Al. It's up to you, brother.
Yeah. So is it only one place that you play where you use a real name, or?
When I played at the Two Share Brewery over on Union Street, it's a little tap room and brewery there. I've used my own name. Again, without any real rhyme or reason, they just seem to take it a little bit more seriously. And this Grant Lampton thing is a little tongue-in-cheek to me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know that it makes a bit of difference to anybody who's ever heard me or overheard me in most cases.
Yeah.
It's to me, and if the bar owner is like, why are you calling yourself this? Oh, just call me Mike. Here's my driver's license. Most people do it as it's a function like a dishwasher. They don't care about what your name is, so like, why are you screwing it up calling yourself,
right,
Bono or whatever.
Yeah.
And as is pointed out to me very often by people close to me, like, are you comparing yourself to Bono? I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like, well, Elton John's real name is not Elton John.
Yeah.
Dude, you're not Elton John. I'm like, I know I'm not Elton John, but it's fun to play around with it.
Yeah, absolutely. How long have you been using the name Grant Lampton?
For just about 2 years now.
Okay.
A good friend of mine, Brendan BK, for those of you who used to know him at the old Panucci's, he had this benefit, as I'd explained, and he's like, you do whatever you want, and that was the day that I started calling myself Grant Lampton.
Yeah.
And at that same time frame, the folks at the Wild Rover had let me do a host an open mic, and I used my own name.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't really comfortable. It was kind of my first job doing it by myself, where it was a regular deal, and getting a check and a 1099 and all that. I'm like, I'll use my real name.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't need to get any more tax trouble than I already am.
Well, it is tax. Well, actually, I guess yesterday was tax day.
Rats.
Yes.
Now you tell me.
Oops.
Hello, Mr. Lampton. You can send the check to.
Yeah. Now, you don't have anything, as far as your original music, you don't have anything recorded currently, or?
Not on a digital format that I could hand to you hand to hand. My little thing took off so quickly that I ended up really just paying attention to getting out in front of people and playing music. The original stuff that I do have was made 20 years ago, sitting on the end of my bed and little 4-track machine. And
really? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I just haven't taken the time, and I get so much more satisfaction of like learning a new song.
Yeah.
But there's some, a Howard Jones song or what have you,
Yeah.
But, okay, I'll sit down, and with the advent of YouTube and all this, it's not the advent. It's been around for a long time. This is how old I am. But when I was a kid, you either listened to it and learned it, or you bought a book, or somebody told you these are the chords. And now I can walk into the living room and be like, I was humming this song in the car, look it up and there's some guy who says this is how you play it, and it's really wonderful. And that's about all I don't hate to seem lazy, but that's about all the bandwidth I want to pay attention to it, rather than sitting down. I'm like, all right, what are the lyrics going to be? What are the chords going to be? When it happened when I was younger, it just happened. I didn't sit down to write a song. It was like, okay, I feel this, and let's put it down. And there it was. And if I do ever play something for you and you ask me to explain it to you, I'd be like, I don't know. My friend was dating a girl and they broke up, and thought passed through my head, and that's all it was. So I don't want to dive into studying it, because I'm, and I've heard that story a lot when people, the guy who was on with Rob Fridays, it's like it comes into my head and I put it down, and it's like I might move some stuff around afterwards, but it just happens. And but I think you have to be open and ready for that. I'm more waiting for the next song I hear on the radio to be like, hey, this might be a good tune for me to play. And, that frustrates me sometimes, that like, hey, should I really be putting my nose to the stone to put together an 8-song CD and of my stuff and get out there? But, I don't know what my story is. I've looked into, you need to have your little elevator speech to say this is what I do and how I do it and all of that. And, it's been so accidental that, I don't know what that story is. And I don't know at the end of the day that anybody really gives a damn about it. So it's not worth the effort.
But in some ways, it's probably kind of liberating to not be worried about that, I would think, and also kind of fun in a way to not know what your story is necessarily.
That's the 3-letter word, man. Is fun, and I do this, and when it turns me on, it's the most fun thing in the world, and I'm not carrying around a lot of baggage of what do people think of the song. An awful lot of the stuff I play, like some Ween stuff and some obscure Grateful Dead stuff and some old Arlo Guthrie, people probably think, if they even care to think about it, think that it's original anyway. Because, I'm not playing your Tom Petty, and I'm not playing your Sweet Caroline and stuff like this. Sorry, Rob Acevedo. he wants me to learn a Neil Diamond song for one of his shows, and I'm going to do it. But so the stuff that I play is what I like and what's in my head. And
well, we just saw an example of that happen right here. You played that Valerie song?
Yes.
I didn't know. I actually asked you, is that one of yours? I had no idea.
I wrote that from a very difficult experience many years ago.
You could have told me that and I wouldn't have known.
Right. No, I try to stay honest with this stuff.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. With the technology the way it is though now, if you did ever want to, you could take a song and just one of your originals and just record yourself playing it and put it on YouTube or something. So that's the thing about the technology. It's easier than ever to learn other people's songs, but also too easier than ever to put your own material out there if you do ever decide to. It is.
It's the battle of the effort that I put into this. After I play 2 nights, a night over here and a night over there, for the next 4 days, pretty much I don't want to do anything with the guitar, and I don't want to mess around with knobs and, a new amp and going to the music store and spending money that I shouldn't be spending. And so I have this little capsule of stuff that I do, and I go do it, and then I kind of step away and go back to watching the Travel Channel. So
do you so you have to rest your vocal cords after a show a little bit?
I like to. I mean, you and I were just talking more about interest, rather than physical. But I just in the last 6 months here, I feel it after 2 days. My voice will get shot, and
no kidding.
It's harder to get out of bed. And I stand when I play normally, other than doing this type of setup. I'm standing for 2 hours or 4 hours, and I'll play for 50 minutes and then take a 10-minute break. But again, I'm not a kid. I'm in reasonably good shape, but to stay up. And then normally afterwards, at the end of the evening, I like to go get to a safe place and kind of give myself the rock star treatment, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
and, you know, that doesn't help to carry you into the next morning and do that. And
right.
well, it's just kind of I can't do that when I play. Yeah. I'm a heck of a lot better when I don't. So I end up kind of treating myself well afterwards, and it's normally a long night, and it's hard to get bounce right back up and do it again.
Do you do anything for your throat? You know, because you have such a nice voice. Do you do? You know, I've heard singers talk about lemon and you know all this different kinds of stuff. Like,
I mean, I'm a tea drinker. I drink a lot of tea. I think that's good.
Yeah.
I try to drink water. But at a place like the Hop Knot with all the fabulous craft beer that they have, I normally give myself one of those, and I try to stay on the water. I had thought about, you know, popping a Starburst in my mouth and stuff like that, but you can't chew and sing at the same time, or at least like chew gum and walk at the same time.
Very true, yes. Do people suggest a lot to you, different artists they think that, you know, you should cover? Or
not very often, or at least not seriously, you know. And I've got friends who'll be like, "Hey, why don't you learn this Wheeler Walker Jr. song?" And I look into the lyrics and say, I won't be able to sing that in public, just in that particular example. But no, not often. So that's why this was a heck of a good selection, because I do know who Jack Johnson is. I was turned on to it many years ago. I didn't continue to listen to him after I knew him, but it makes complete sense. So I appreciate that kind of suggestion.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't happen often. I mean, I can only assume that people think that I'm weird enough to the point that, you know, I'm not going to play. When I play out on the street, sometimes I will get, "Hey, do you know this song?" I had a woman say, like, "Hey, I'll give you $20 if you can play Bad Fish by Sublime." I'm like, "Nope, know the song, know the band, but I don't know the song on the guitar." So I'm sorry. But you can put $1 in my tip jar if you like.
Does that happen a lot where people will make requests?
Not too often. It's always normally in a patio setting. In a bar, I'm really, you know, trying to adjust to that setting, and particularly the Hop Knot, or even back at the Rover. Folks are, you know, might be watching the game, or, you know, they're talking to their friends or whatever, and it's nice to kind of have the audio activity behind them, but they're not sitting there, you know, in their seat watching me or up dancing in front of me, although that happens occasionally. I'm more kind of part of the surroundings, I believe, than tonight, one night only, Lampton. You know, of course, I dream of that and would like that someday, but that's really not my niche in the city. So.
Do you ever find it distracting, by the way? This is something I've always been curious about, too. You know, because I've never performed as a solo artist. I've only been in bands. But if you're in a situation where there is, you know, like you said, people are watching the game or doing whatever they're doing, and there's almost, you know, other audio that you're competing with, is that ever distracting to you, or are you able to just kind of tune that out and focus on what you're doing?
All of the above. One of the most distracting things that I do it, if it's not too serious, outside the Harley Davidson pipes. And I will literally stop, and I don't get mad. It's just, I'll just stop. You know, and I think it's kind of funny. Like, I'll stop and then pick right up after he or she flies by, and, you know, echoing in these halls of steel and glass. But I have to pay very close attention to what I do to not make a mistake, either singing or playing, to the point that I will not make eye contact with people that I know, that I'm familiar with. Because if I'll laugh and I'll make a mistake, or I'll, you know, my heart will skip a beat or what have you. So, you know, I'll say, "Hey, I'm not ignoring you. You know, thank you for coming to see me, but I'm not going to look you straight in the eye while I'm serenading you." It's distracting. So I get distracted by that stuff. But, you know, normally if people are laughing and, you know, occasionally throwing bar glasses and stuff like that, no, that doesn't bother me. It's more, you know, eye contact, or if somebody's like, "Hey, how are you?" Or, "Hey, how are you?" Whatever the case may be, that's distracting to me. But.
That's got to be awkward, and you know, obviously that happens. I'm sure it happens to everybody, I guess. You know, when you're playing, you're in the middle of a song, and somebody's like trying to get your attention to say hello, and it's like, you know, because you almost feel like you should acknowledge them somehow,
you do.
But you really,
and like they're asking you a question, but you know, if you're in the third verse of whatever it is, and you can't stop to be like, "Do you know that song?" Like what song? can I finish the last verse here of the chorus? And,
yeah.
But, that's okay. This is not, at the level that I'm at, it's not that big of a deal. So, again, to be funny, I will occasionally just stop, somebody will walk by and, red chaps and a cowboy hat in Manchester, and I'll stop and be like, did y'all see that?
Right.
Only in Manchester, man. Nothing but the chaps and a cowboy hat.
Yeah. Stefan in the chat room said, our friend Stefan Philbrook, he said, I wish Manchester wasn't such a cover town. I always needed to bring the kids outside the city to hear original music. That's interesting. I feel like there was a time when there was more original music in Manchester, but it's kind of changed somewhat. But playing covers is there certainly is, I think, more opportunity generally, right? It's hard. It is hard to sort of market all original music. Like if you were to just go play a set somewhere of just original music that you've written, I mean that's not what a lot of bar owners want, right?
Right. It's a very fine line, and I'm certainly, like we had discussed, I'm comfortable playing covers. That I enjoy, and that if other people enjoy it, great. But certainly a bar owner should be like, hey, he's got his niche with this type of cover music.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be comfortable walking into, the Shaskeen and saying, hey, my name's Grant Lampton, and I've got 4 hours worth of original material. I don't know that they'd talk to me. And so it's very different in that. But it's a great scene here. But this gentleman's absolutely correct that Manchester isn't, like the Portsmouth music scene was back when I dipped my toe in it.
Yeah.
They had, Heavens to Murgatroyd and bands like that, and even Savoy Truffle that played a lot of their original music, and people went and paid for it and danced to it and enjoyed it. But that was a different scene, and
True.
Manchester's not developed that way.
Yeah.
At least right now, at the moment.
Why do you think that? Do you think because of UNH, because it's more of a college vibe on the Seacoast? Do you think that has something to do with it?
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe so, and maybe it's closer to people who do that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Musicians and artists who do that type of stuff. But I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
I was a kid. It was the Salisbury Beach, Hampton Beach, Portsmouth. Areas like that, you could get away with playing a lot of original music, but nobody ever really wanted to pay you for it.
Well, that's true. There is that.
I don't make a living doing this by any means. I mean, it's great pocket money, but I get paid, I think, a lot easier being a predictable. He's a solo acoustic musician, and he's going to play for 2 hours, and maybe we'll recognize a handful of songs.
Right. Stefan says it was always funny to see the reaction on the performers at MAGA Palooza, which is I don't know if you do you know Stefan, or it sounds like you may have crossed paths because he mentioned earlier that he's seen you live, but so his daughter Maggie had passed away from cancer, so they used to do this annual. I assume if they resume it in the future, they're going to have to call it something different because MAGA means something different now. But and Stefan is definitely not pro-Trump, but because her name was Maggie, they would call it MAGA Palooza, and it was a benefit to raise money for cancer research. But so that's what he's referencing here. But he says it was always funny to see the reaction on the performers at MAGA Palooza when they asked me if they could play a couple originals. And I would say we encourage all originals, and yet, and just throw in a couple of covers. So, but that was, obviously a different kind of vibe, an outdoor, festival scenario. Stephen Light joins us in the Facebook live chat. DJ Steve says, "Hi guys, I'm loving the show. Very nice.
Excellent.
When you were back in the day when you were playing in bands, was that all original music, or was any of that covers, or
both? I played in a Grateful Dead cover band.
Okay.
And we deviated a little bit. We'd play some Little Feat in the band and that type of jam genre. 100% covers, 110% covers. And, but then during kind of the grunge era, I played in a band that we'd play the Pearl Jam songs, the Alice in Chains, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the majority was original stuff, and that was kind of our drive. And we'd go and make our little 4-track tapes in the studio and of original music. And it was very satisfying and a fantastic experience. But there was just always that angst of, if this flops, it flops. And, when you're playing cover songs, it's like, hey, if I made it to the end of the song and you hear a clap or two, then mission accomplished. And, I don't know if all artists or musicians are like this. I'm terribly self-conscious, terribly, terribly self-conscious. And I'm more confident than I've ever been to do this little thing that I do. But always, even when I play a original, that's what, I got a lot of mileage when you said, hey, I heard the song that you played up in Concord for Rob, and I wrote that, and that's fantastic, but I wouldn't expect any reaction from a bar crowd from it. It's a kind of a different song, but I've run that whole process in my mind to the point that I'm a nervous Nelly about it.
Really, yeah.
But you're beating yourself up at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah. And I'm having a heck of a lot of fun. I'm very, very, very lucky to be able to do what I do and make a handful of bucks here and there. The other cool thing is like all the people that I've met and get to meet, how you and I have gotten to know each other, and certainly Robbie Acevedo and more than a handful of other people, the patrons and the bar owners and stuff like that who become friends that I didn't have a ton of friends, it seems, in retrospect. I had some very good close friends, but now I have a lot of loose friends. It's really cool.
That is cool.
I owe it all to just being out at nighttime and, playing and coming and doing and stuff like this. Mikey Martineau, I didn't know him up until a couple of weeks ago. And, now when I see him, I can say hi and he can say hi. And that kind of stuff wasn't around years ago for me. I had my core group of friends, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Is there anyone you team up with locally for shows? I mean, obviously, you did the show with the gentleman from Portland, but is there anyone you play out with sometimes here? Maybe you split the bill or anything?
No, not anymore. No, I'm almost strictly a solo act. The thing with Joe Carpenito was kind of a lark. Back when I played, hosted the open mic at the Wild Rover here, I would get up and play with folks like Fredo and Scotty Cloutier. You may know their names.
Yep.
That if the opportunity presented itself, we'd play together, and it was such a loose format. But for the most part, I don't. I'll go and play Johnny Friday's open mic, and almost exclusively I end up playing by myself. Scotty will play bass sometimes, but I've not made the effort. Again, that's where the waters get muddied to, okay, I have to meet you halfway and you have to meet me halfway. And that takes time outside of the actual performance to, you've got to go woodshed that stuff. And it's not that I can't do it. I just, I don't want to. And it seems, like I'm great friends with Fredo. And I know I could pick up the phone and be like, hey, could you learn 2 songs? And you give me 2 songs and let's do this. I'm pretty sure he'd do it in a heartbeat. But he's running in, we're all running in the same direction, but we're running in different paths, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, no, it's pretty much 99% me.
Yeah, he shows up in our Facebook live chat occasionally, Alfredo Enrique Benavides, if I'm saying his name correctly.
Yes, sir.
But he's very talented too. I've found a performance of his also on Granite State of Mind. Were you guys there together?
We certainly were. Yeah, he actually picked my middle-aged butt up, and we drove up there in his little red car on a snowy night, and but kind of almost sight unseen, and we knew each other and had played a couple of notes together in the bar, but he was a fellow musician. We were both chasing the same carrot, and hopped in and rode up there. So I consider him a dear friend, and I appreciate what he does. And again, to repeat myself, he's not the best at what he does. He's the only one who does what he does.
There you go. I like it. Well, this has been great. Grant Lampton, Mike Sutterth. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's been my pleasure. I like it.
Absolutely. Thank you for playing for us. And I want to remind everybody, of course, that Grant plays Friday nights from 7-ish to 9-ish at the Hop Knot, our wonderful sponsor in the Brady Sullivan at 1000 Elm Street, right across the street. They have delicious gourmet pretzels. What have you tried there for food, by the way?
Their Mac Attack pizza is incredible. It's the Big Mac type pizza, little Thousand Island dressing, some corned beef, and Trudy over there in the kitchen kills it.
Yeah.
I've had some of the sweet pretzels, powdered sugar, cinnamon, kind of like
I haven't
fried dough balls, but they're pretzels.
Oh, yeah.
That's been very, very good. The Reuben, I've had Reuben on a pretzel bun before.
That's right. I remember you mentioning that.
Yeah. That's very good. So the food is great there. I am bamboozled by their beer selection, and that normally takes most of my bandwidth up to look up and down the floor-to-ceiling blackboard of 15, 20 different types of beer, and maybe more. So, but the food is very good, and Trudy certainly knows what she's doing.
Absolutely. We love the Hop Knot.